Recording in progress. Sweet. All right. And let me go ahead and share my screen over there. You guys can see okay? All right. No one's really in, but I'll go ahead and minimize that. Just have to write it down. All right. So today was day one for materials, correct? So this is a continuation of what began with project 5, where you did the lighting. Now you will start doing material work. Material project will take 2 days, 2 lab days, mind you, at which point we will revert to doing textures. Now, lighting being done doesn't mean it's done well. It might be good enough for project 5, but when we start changing the color of everything with this current project, your lights might need some additional attention. So please keep that in mind when you begin work. If you start throwing a bunch of bright colors in your room, all of a sudden the lights that looked okay when the room was 50% gray might suddenly look too bright. And you will have to compensate for that, okay? So bear in mind, everything you did in project 5 is probably good, but you will be changing the room that it's in and you may have to adjust, okay? I will mention a few things as we go. It's stuff you may have to address or a way you can address it with lighting at the end, remind me. But some tips and tricks to help you go a little less insane with the back and forth. Because basically it's everything we do is an iterative process. We do the lights and we're like, yay. And then we do the materials and we're like, yay, but the lights look like crap. So we fix the lights, we're like, yay, but now we have materials. And you just go back and forth until you want to quit. But each time you go back and forth, there's just a little bit less work each go, hopefully. And the idea you narrow into that, that finished product. But today, brought to you by my own shiny self, is reference. So let's talk about reference. Project 5. For most of this conversation, I'm going to be talking to you guys as if you all are freelance artists, people who work on the side or whatever for cash. You do a job based on what I'm asking you to do. We agree on terms, and then you take money and I get a product, essentially. So with that being said, what was your responsibility for Project 5? What did you have to do to get paid? Anyway.
Go through all the stuff that the client required. And then try to follow the reference.
Okay, so you were given reference for the lighting, and you were told to match the reference for the lighting, and that was your job. We had you some notes in there and tells you what lights we did use, how to do it, stuff like that. So you had a pretty clear idea of the scope of your job. When I mean scope, that's a term you're going to hear sometimes. Scope is all that which encompasses everything you're responsible for doing in order to get paid. So the scope of Project 5 was you got a scene, you got a bunch of information, and you got references. You got to put the references next to your work and work your magic until they matched. Fair statement? When you did it, how did you know you were done?
You didn't see so many major adjustments between the reference.
Right. Right. So you knew you were done because you're like, hey, there's my render. There's the reference. They're pretty damn close. I think I'm good. I should get my money now, right? Understandable. What's the goal for Project 6? And materials. To what end?
Where the materials you created look and match similar to materials that you're referencing.
I didn't get any reference. I'm the client. What are you guys talking about reference?
Oh, we had to go on and look for our own reference.
So you're saying here, and what I'm trying to get you, there's a couple things we're going to talk about reference. We're going to talk about the professional ramifications of reference beyond just the art, what we can use it for professional. But then we're of course going to get into what makes good reference, what makes bad reference, how we employ and stuff like that. What I'm getting at with Project 6 compared to Project 5. Project 5, the client knew what they wanted, right? Project 5, they're like, hey, I have a scene and I have some lighting and I want you to light this scene the same way. And you're like, I know exactly what I'm done. You knew where your goal was, right? You had to have a conversation with a third party, meaning like a small claims court or something, if someone like, I wasn't paying you, I was being a jerk. You could go there and say like, here was the agreement. Here's what they said they wanted me to do. Here's what I did, right? It's kind of like if you made a pool, you make pools for a living. Well, I'm sorry, I built a pool. Here's the picture of the person's backyard. Here it is now with the pool. I'd like to be paid. It's the same thing, right? You have something that you can point to and say, very clearly, this is what I was supposed to do. With Project 6, initially, think of it like this. Hey, I would like you guys to go ahead and do materials on that scene. Oh, cool. What would you like to look like? Nah, I don't care. The client, yeah, so somebody's already felt that pain. Client ever says they don't care. They are completely full of crap. They absolutely care. You can already feel my pain. They care. Even if they don't know what they want, they know what they don't want. What you don't want to do, and what I'm getting at, is you don't want to enter into what technically becomes an open-ended agreement. When are you done? When the client says so. That should never, ever be a thing. I'm done when I match certain criteria that we both can see on written paper. That's better. So what reference can be to that end, and you guys all pointed it out perfectly at 6. You guys are going to material the objects in the scene until they match reference. The reference then would become part of the contract agreement between us, where it's like, hey, you wanted a purple leather couch, so this picture here, and you wanted like hardwood floor, this picture here. You know what I'm saying? Like, you're going to have a really clear cut goal for every asset that I'm going to work on in the scene, so that when you're done, you can point them and say, hey, everything you agreed to in the reference has been done. I would like to be paid now, right? Not something obscure unless you want to work on that one project until you're in retirement. Because literally, if you've ever worked with a client, some of you I can already tell have, like left, right, left, right, left, forever. They'll never ever finish that. And it's funny, when you have really clear goals in the project, and they suddenly they want something that wasn't in the project, and they suddenly have to pay for it. It's amazing how unimportant that becomes. Oh, I would really like the couch if it had the buttons, you know, those Victorian buttons. Well, you know, we didn't model it, and I could do that for you, but it's not in the contract. I'd have to charge you. You know what? I hate buttons. Screw buttons. I don't know what the hell I was thinking. Who said buttons? You're all fired. So it's amazing when you guys are freelancers, and I go over this part first. When you guys are freelancers, you are the artist. You are also HR. You are legal. You know what I mean? Like, you're your whole entity. And the only one looking out for you truly is probably yourself. Not to be a jerk about it, but you do want to make sure that, like, hey, I know what I'm doing. I know what I'm getting involved in. I'm not going to work for free. I have to make a living. You know, and I just want clearly defined objectives that I can meet and get job. I want it done. I want my money so I can go on to the next one. Because the more jobs I can take a year, the more money I might make. The more money I make, the better I live. Most of y'all will probably work in studios, big places. You may not even do that much freelance work. You'll come to that. Freelance usually comes on the side later after you've kind of established a reputation. And people who've worked with you before are like, hey, we could use some help, but I don't have enough work to pull you in full time, but I can have you do a couple gigs. You might have some side things. Like, the better you are, the more your reputation, the more people you work with who would want to work with you again, the more opportunities will arrive at for freelance. Initially, it's hard because you have you're an unknown quantity. I just put that out there. But I still want to talk about it like freelance, because Full Scale is going to talk about studio work. But no one really gets into the nitty gritty. At least when I was here, nobody was really telling me about what kind of stuff I would expect when I'm trying to do a side hustle or make a few bucks, you know, to try to get the ends to meet, and all the stuff that has to go with that. So I'll share that with y'all as best I can. So, an important section of reference 1, as a tool to put between yourself and a client as far as objectives, saying that I'm going to make X look like this. Because think about it. If you have, like, hey, I want to do this room, the client has no idea what they want to do. It is so much easier for y'all to just jump on Google and say, what do you think of this couch? What do you think of this sofa? Or, you know, what do you think of this end table? What do you think of these walls? You know what I mean? Like that. And if they come back and say, nah, because doing stuff in 3D takes time. Taking the renders, it takes hours. Finding crap on Google is nothing. It's fast. And they can change their mind all the live long day until you settle on something. Then you make those images, like put them in a folder and say, contract in the reference folder here, these images correspond to everything. When you guys, and for this project, this applies. When you download images for reference, you need to name them for the reason they exist. If you're getting an image for your floor, it needs to be floor.jpg. Like, remember, I'm grading. You are not sitting behind me going, no, I meant, you know, you can't do that. I'm by myself. It has to stand on its own merit. So you never ever want me, the client, confused. Because I guarantee you, I will find a way to be confused to the detriment of your paycheck. Because it's in my best interest to pay you as little as I can get away with, right? Treat them like they're going to be like that. It's almost mercenary, the approach I've taken over the years. I do a job. Whatever you want, it's fine. You want a soldier with Barney clown shoes? Got it. Can I get that in writing first? With red laces? Got it, no problem. That's the last tip I'll give you when it comes to professionalism. Have a side project that's just for you. That's called a sanity check. Because people are going to ask you to make the dumbest stuff. And it's their artistic vision. They're paying you for their vision, right? You're just kind of like, hey, whatever makes you happy. But you're going to get invested. Some of y'all already do. You get invested in your work and people give you feedback and you're like, I want to throw punch you. You can't. You have to let it go. They're paying you to be like, okay. You're like, oh, this soldier is so cool. No, I want him to have a Hawaiian shirt and cut off board shorts and Birkenstocks with his weapon. You're like, oh my God, what did you just do to me? The answer is sure, no problem. It'll take an extra time because it's outside the contract. We already agreed to this. It's this. I can do that, but it's extra work that it would take away from other work, and I need money to eat. So contracts are important. If you guys ever have questions about that kind of crap, hit me up. Reminder for the Discord thing, if y'all are in Discord, you guys are eligible to hang out in Discord even after you're done with our class. And we answer classes, people from way before. As you guys run into things, always hit us up. We're always a resource for that. Especially later, if you guys start like getting closer to graduation, some of y'all start dipping your toes in some freelance stuff here and there. Stuff's gonna come up and you'll be like, what the? Hit us. We've probably all dealt with it. So reference for work, good to put between you so that there's a clear understanding between you and the client, what it is they want and what it is you're gonna do. The main importance for reference is, for us as an artist, is to make sure that our work doesn't suck. I mean, if we suck as an artist, that's not going to help. But if we're really good as an artist, how many here are really good at drawing? How many are really good at drawing without reference next to them? The hands kind of got a little shaky there.
Yeah, that was my effort.
I suck at characters. I could make Gumby, maybe. If you gave me like the stringy gummy worms, I could maybe make him. That's all I got. Even with reference, I suck. I'm not a character artist. Environments are no different though. So let me illustrate a point to you because it's kind of fun. We need reference because have you ever tried to work off memory? It sucks. We're not wired to remember that crap. Nobody cares. I get reference because I don't care. I get reference because I'm lazy. I get reference because when I'm going to do the job for whoever, I want to forget whatever the hell I think I know, and I'm just going to do what I see. What did you do? I just did what the picture said. I got a picture of the purple dinosaur couch you wanted, and I just made a match. What does it really look like in real life? I don't care. I didn't see it. It's a picture. I matched it. Leave me alone. As far as visual memory, I want you all to look at the ceiling for a second. I want you to pay attention to what's going on there. Fixate hard on that ceiling. I want you to get in all the details. Then I want all of you, without cheating or looking down, to describe the floor. Don't look down. Don't cheat. You're ready. Give me the floor. Tell me about it. Green? Are we? It's pentagon shape?
Some of those pentagons line up.
Black and white stripes. Okay, everybody can look down and just see how wrong everybody is. There's pentagons, there's also triangles, there's no black and white stripes. There's color stripes, but they're not black and white. How many here give no rat's butt about the floor? I mean, seriously. The only time I care about this floor is if I trip on it, I have to touch it with my bare hands, then I think I have to saw them off. Other than that, I don't care. Nobody walks around staring at walls going, look at that bookmark. Nobody cares. Now, all of a sudden, though, you're on a job and you're like, oh, damn, what the hell is that drywall in the corner of the room in the back of the thing? I have to remember. No, just get a damn picture and save your sanity. You don't want to agonize over that. We are not wired to remember things like that. We're like, we see motion, like the cheetah trying to eat us. We're programmed to avoid that. We're not really remember the grass, the color of the grass behind it while it's eating us. We don't care. So reference is, for one, it takes the burden off of us to try to remember what the hell it was we were supposed to be doing. The other thing is everybody is an expert who's going to look at your work. And I mean that with a certain amount of cynicism, because you know everybody's a critic, right? But another thing I want you all to do is do me a favor. Have you guys all seen a cinder block before? hold up your hands about how big a cinder block is in your memory of approximately how big that is. Now I'm seeing a little variation, but if you guys look around each other, you're all about in the same space. How do you know that? When was the last time we were at Home Depot? I'm sorry. I've done that. It's a thankless job. Somebody said he worked in construction. I'm like, yeah, okay. What about the rest of you? You didn't do construction, right? How many buildings have you walked by in your life made of this crap? You just take it for granted, right? You've seen it so much. So if you go and make a scene and, oh God. That's one strike. That's bad. You don't even see. I can't even tell who's talking with the mask. I just like, whoo, what you doing? The whole side of the room. Ari, you're the gauntlet has been thrown down. Ari is, as far as I know, the master of puns. So now that I've been completely train wrecked, the general idea is like when you look at the problem that a character artist has is that if you have to make humans, everybody's an expert. Everybody has been staring at humans their whole life. And so if you make a character with a forearm that are just a little bit freakishly long, like I might, people are going to look at your stuff and go, man, there's something wrong with that. Is that Peter Parker? Why is he he should have let go of the train that was moving too fast. His arms are long. You know, even if like sometimes you guys have all done this, you've watched something CG and you're like, man, that's fake. And you might be like, why? Like, I don't know, just look at it. Like some things like, Scorpion King doesn't need an explanation. It exists. We know it's fake. I mean, look at that. But there's other shots in movies where like, damn, that is really close, but there's still something funky there. And this is what you're up against. You're up against a lifetime of people having experience in the real world. And then you're trying to match that. You know what I mean? And that's really hard because all of the little stupid stuff adds up to the realism that we come to expect. And if it's missing, even if they can't articulate what the hell is bothering them, they know something's off. So how do we avoid that? We get as much detail as we can. We're not going to get that from memory. We have to look at a photograph, right? Now, there are two ways you can get a photograph. Now we're going to get into what actually makes, how to get good reference and what is good reference. The first, always the most preferable, if ever possible, is to get your own. For example, you guys can see my screen. Let me show you a picture of something that you guys will be doing. Whoosh, look familiar? This is the outdoor scene. It's the indoor scene that I made from a photograph or something I got in an IKEA catalog. That's why everything looks like it's IKEA. I'm not sure if it's IKEA catalog. This is actually on Full Sail property. This is over by, I think Tony told you, like over by 4B out in the back, somewhere in the nether, right? This is a real place. When you have jobs that are based on real world, you all have legs, you all have cameras. You are absolutely allowed, and hell, even encouraged, to walk over to this location. Like, what if you're doing this in the night scene? How useful is this in the night? This image, not as good, right? But you know where it is, and you can go get it and take pictures of it. Absolutely getting your own photograph with a decent camera and a somewhat understanding of what you need to do in order to capture good types of reference. I say types because they're different. I'm going to get into that in a minute. Okay, so getting your own reference is ideal, but not always practical. For example, this room, this exists, right? You have this scene. I modeled everything after this scene. You guys can absolutely walk on down there with your camera and take a bunch of photos and get the best reference possible, correct? The interior was modeled after a photograph. There is nowhere y'all can go to capture all that. So for that, you're limited with the other option, which is Google Internet Search. I say Google as in two different things. It could be Google, it could be DuckDuckGo, I don't care. It's a search engine looking up photographs and sifting through God knows how much awful stuff to actually find decent imagery that will help you do your job. That's partly what I'm going to be covering today, okay? So, types of reference. MCR, you guys, I'm going to bring you back to the day where you guys were doing modeling, okay? modeling reference, texturing reference, look development reference are the three types of reference that I'm going to be talking. Modeling reference, we don't really use it, but I want you to know about it because one of the first things you might have to do as a junior artist somewhere is a reference gather trip. One of the first things I had to do in my first job was travel to Canada to take photographs of parts of a C-130 aircraft, the air conditioning or some crap. Like, what? I'm going where? I'm an artist. I sit in the chair. What are you doing to me? This was in February, by the way. Anybody's ever been that far north in February? I'm a Floridian. I'm like, I choose life. I'm like, well, if you choose employment, you're going. I'm like, okay, I'm going. I went up there. You guys, when you model, you're looking at the front, the side, the top, that straight on orthogonal shot, right? For that kind of work, and this is just pro tip for you guys to remember. If you have yourself a good 35mm camera, hell, you can even do it with this. What you want to do is you want to go back. Like, let's say the model is right there. It's on that wall. It's sitting there. It's a car part. I'm making an engine or some damn thing, right? To do modeling reference, I'm going to back way the hell up, and then I'm going to zoom in. You guys remember lecture 1, telephoto lenses? What do telephoto lenses do that is unique to them? You guys remember what they do to the scene and the depth? Yeah, it flattens it, right? You lose all of that perspective in the image, and it looks almost orthogonal, like a front view, a left view, or a top view, right? That's what you want to do. If you're getting reference to model something you're going to have to model, back up, zoom in. Straight on shot, straight right shot, straight down on the top. With big things, we used to turn it like 15-degree increments and keep taking photographs. Like you want all really specific information for the silhouette, for the features, right? That's a different need. Let's go to the other end of the spectrum, which is stuff you guys are going to want to get for Project 7, which often gets turned in as look development reference. Let me illustrate them. Look development reference dictates what stuff is going to look like when it's done in the render. Texture reference is images you get for the express purposes of converting them into a texture. Okay, so let me give you an example of a look development reference for this floor, since we already kind of picked on it. If I wanted look development reference for this floor, that's what you need for this project and Project 7, as far as telling me, hey, this is what the floor is going to look like when I'm done, right? That's look development. It's basically you standing there with an iPhone or whatever, taking a picture of the floor, not straight down at the floor. Just stand there like a 3/4 angle, take a picture. Look development does not want straight ahead shots. It does not want edge on shots. It wants, if you need look development for a room, pretend you ran to somebody's house, took a picture and got it before the cops got it. Texture reference, like I need to be straight onto the wall. Like if I'm doing texture reference for this wall, I need to be like, you know what I mean? Like right down the normal. I don't want any distortion, right? But for like a regular picture, like that. Because for look development reference, I need to know what color it is, how reflective it is. Are those reflections clear or blurry? Because that's roughness, you guys remember today. If it's metal or like plastic, I don't need a pattern. If it's like this carpet, you guys said it was like pentagons or hexagons, and I see some triangles. I don't necessarily need that for this bit yet. That's going to be in texturing. That's important to me for texturing. And if I needed to make this floor a texture, I would have to get a photo kind of straight down so I could make something tile. That's a whole different need. All I need right now is something to keep me honest. So people aren't looking at my stuff the same way they looked at Chris Rock in The Scorpion. I haven't picked on this movie a lot. I'm sorry. It's just there. When you look at that movie, you're going like, oh, I hope I never do that. Well, don't start now. The key is good reference, okay? So let's talk about what makes good look development reference. We do not want texture reference, and I will point some of that out as to illustrate the differences, okay? So the goal here, let's back up and state what our goal is for Project 6. We need to get reference for each asset in the scene. And then we need to add a material to that object in the 3D scene and adjust it so that it looks like the reference. Fair statement? What did you guys learn how to do today? In the materials, like what was the settings you guys learned to adjust? Just to remind me, I already said them, but roughness, base color, metalness. Okay. Use your words, dude. You're still choking on the floor, I know. Okay, anisotropic. Yeah, nobody knows how to say that word, man. Don't feel bad. I've been doing this for a long time. I still hate it. So basically all the stuff we see, but not textures. So like this floor, for example, there's a whole bunch of stripes. You guys are right. There's a hexagonal pattern, right? We're not going to be able to do that in Project 6. So if I were doing this floor, I would get it like, what's the average color? It's kind of like a gray, right? I mean, when you look at it, the average takeaway is it's gray with some color. So I would just make it gray, and I would focus on whether it was reflective or not. And if those reflections were clear or blurry, that's it. The rest comes later, okay? Your look development reference images for every object need to tell you what to do. They need to give you all of the answers to all of the questions you just gave. What color is it? How reflective is it? How rough is it? Do I need metalness or do I not? Is it glass? We're going to get to that in the next lecture. All that kind of stuff, right? If it tells you that, you can do your job. If it's not telling you that, you're going to be like, huh? What does it look like? Oh. So we don't want that. So we're going to start with the couch. Interior on the couch. Let's just pick a thing. Let's go over what makes good reference and bad. What kind of couch y'all want to do? Lily, I'm going to pick on people. Oh, you are evil. You don't want it here. No, really, you don't want it here. So the request was for a velvet couch. So I looked up velvet. We're going to get to that. I'll get to your alternate. You can't do velvet. And I'm pointing it out. I'm glad you asked that because usually I have to point it out, but this is way more fun. I'm pointing out leather. Leather's cool. Velvet, look at velvet. It isn't just the color changes when it gets reflective. Like it doesn't just get like shiny, it like has color issues. Velvet is voodoo. It's really cool crap. But it is beyond the scope of the technique we will show you in the file. Now, if we get to Project 7, and you guys are killing it, and you show me like, look at my room, it is awesome. Give me the velvet couch. At that point, I will show you how to make velvet if you really want to know. If anybody's like, I gotta have it, it's velvet. All of this kind of stuff, I guess the word I would say is plush. Like avoid things like velvet, suede. What's the other one? Microfiber. And I think other things that are kind of, you know what I'm talking about? That like kind of like the yeah, like I call it plush, the petables. Petables are such a bad word. What I mean by petal, like if you had a velvet couch, you can pet it. And as you do that, it changes color, right? Like if you rub the fibers right to left, all of a sudden it's darker. And then you go right to left or left to right, it changes back. Everybody who's a kid who's ever seen anything velvet has started writing their name on the thing, right? I mean, it's just a thing. You have to do it. That's because of how it works is what makes it so hard to make in CG when you're new. It is, there is so much interdependency and only that, but the color has to shift. I don't know what they call them, chromatics. Something like you guys have all seen the car, like the purpling, it changes color as it drives by. That kind of mentality, that's the kind of thing we're talking about. It'll come later and we'll get to it if you want later down the road. But for that, we'll have to skip the velvet. I could have just said no, but I'd rather explain why. So, but you did follow with leather couch. So let's look at leather couch. My cap, I'm not angry. There we go, I'm done. Right? Okay, so let me ask some questions to help us narrow down the search, and you'll see what I'm getting at when I'm asking them. You want a leather couch? Daytime or nighttime? Does it matter? With what I'm looking up, do you think it would matter, daytime or nighttime? Will the same couch look differently in two different lighting environments? I'm seeing some head shake. I would agree. Yeah, it's the same thing, but you'll see it differently. So the time of day might matter. What about inside? Is it inside or outside? Does that have like sunlight have a big impact compared to like say incandescent light in the house? Yeah. So what we need is I can't just look up any old leather couch. I need to know where it is. I need to know how it's being lit. Because if at all possible, I want the reference to comply with what I'm actually having to do. If I'm doing a couch outside like we have, I'm going to look up couches that are outside. If it's during night outside, I'm going to try to find that. Because all like the subtle, like how hard is it? Like a dark, like a black couch at night, it'd be really hard to see. Black couch during the day is like really, really, really dark gray. I need to know what it looks like in as close as possible to the actual environment I'm working with, so that people aren't looking at my stuff and going, Scorpion King. I need my stuff to disappear, right? If somebody picks up on my stuff, I haven't done my job. Remember, I'm environment, it's background. I mean, I want it to look cool, but I want it to kind of disappear too. So let's talk about the obvious thing here that you're going to always run into on Google is white backgrounds. This is somebody selling this couch. If you follow this link, I'm pretty sure you'll eventually get to a website where they want you to buy this couch for, is it already up there? I refuse. That doesn't look like $1,000 couch. Not that I have any, I don't, what the hell do I know? I sit on a rock. So the general idea here is we don't want this. Free tip for everybody. It's 3 points off. Every single image you give me with a white background is 3 points off. People have failed this project by giving me a whole bunch of white background stuff. I have no idea if they did that during the day, if they did that during the night, if they summoned it with a seance. I have no idea how it got here. I just know that. And 9 times out of 10, when you get stuff like this, if you look at that photograph, how it's really lit kind of funkily. Sorry, folks, I'm doing the reference gallery demo. Good to see you, though. That's so weird. You can tell it's kind of a studio lighting set. And what I mean by that is, yeah, like it's got reflections in all the right places to make it look really luscious, like you want to sit in it. That's great, but regular rooms probably don't look like that. Certainly not our lighting. Our lighting is like somebody's just hiding in a hole at night. We don't have a whole lot of lights there. During the day, it's a little bit different. But this is unnatural, so we don't want this. So, no white backgrounds. The trick here to avoid this is 2 things. One, before I forget, I'm going to go to my tools. This is sidetrack, I saw. But I want you to make the size just large only. Please do not give me postage stamps that I have to get in there with a whole little magnifying glass to try to figure out what your reference is. I don't want that. I already have a hard enough time seeing it, and I'll just take that as you trolling me. But we also want to use a lot more words. So somebody else, I'm not going to pick on you. Who wants to jump on this? Leather couch, what time of day? Where do you want? Hit me. Evening. Leather couch, evening. Where? Outside. And I got a whole bunch of white background. Thanks, Google. And then I got a whole bunch of pictures inside. Thanks. Man, you guys went right for the jugular. I love it. So what I got is a bevy of garbage. Thank you. Hey, look, outdoors. And more outdoors. In case you missed it, the great outdoors. And what the hell, dude? Anybody who says Google isn't manipulating search results to drive you insane is clearly not look reference. Now, here's the other thing. Sometimes, and before I get into other stuff, this is good that we brought this up. Reference, sometimes you guys have to be crafty about this crap. Because first off, you said evening. And I'm not going to lie, the second you said that, I winced. Because night imagery is so much harder to find than daytime. You guys taking photos at night with your phone? Do they suck? They're horrible, aren't they? That's why there's hardly any out there on the internet, because nobody wants to take credit for that. But you get a lot of stuff during the day, and apparently indoors. So what you need to do sometimes is you need to learn how to search indirectly. You want a leather couch indoors or outdoors at night. So what I'm going to do is, where would I find a leather couch outdoors? And I'm just going to start looking for random crap. I have no idea what the hell I'm doing. I looked up outdoor patio cafe, nighttime. You guys are starting to get it though. I'm not going to look exactly what I want. I'm going to look for situations that might have what I need. And I'm going to look in the background for what I want. So I did outdoor cafe, patio, nighttime. And now I'm starting to get some stuff clearly at night. Before, when you look up night stuff, nothing showed up. Finding a couch might be a little sketchy. Here we go. We got some padded chairs. I might be able to pull that off and say, hey, that's the couch background, that's the couch thing. That's a bit of a stretch, but you guys see what I'm getting at? I can get results indirectly. And sometimes you're going to have to do this, especially for the night stuff. So when y'all are looking for night stuff and get really ticked off, remember indirect searching. It is a huge skill to cultivate because You will have so much, people are like, how do you get good reference all the time? I'll be like, aha. I don't look what I'm looking for. What? Just don't ask. Sound like Yoda. Yeah, from now on, when you go to work, just talk backwards and break your sentences up in half and flip them. Too hard work you are. So yeah, you guys see what I'm getting at? I think I saw one and then I lost it because I'm a meathead. Where'd it go? I can't think of stuff, but you guys are getting what I'm saying. I found a table here at night if I needed that, candles at night, stuff like that. You know, all kinds of stuff. But a lot of that stuff, if you look for it directly, you're going to get frustrated. And so you have to be a little bit creative to get around that. So let's go the other way, just to keep us moving on with good references. So outdoor reference at night, I'm going to do this leather couch living room, because Google's going to make me look at one anyway. Living room daytime, because bingo, all the same, like, exact same search results, you know. Hi, I'm a troll. All right, so let's look at this image. No. Sometimes I'm really tempted to just make stuff up and just do it. You know. All right, so let's click on that, because sometimes the image is bigger than they have in, you know, they shrunk it to fit in their web page. So if I want the picture, I'll just right click, open another tab, and I get what I get. Here's the couch. So we wanted a leather couch, we wanted it indoors, and we wanted it daytime. This is what I got. First thing I got. Can you tell what color it is? This is a state the obvious thing. Like if you look at it, you say yes or no. So that's one thing it'll answer one question. Can you tell if it's reflective? Can you tell if those reflections are clear or blurry? Is it made of metal? Can you tell? It's not, but you can tell that it's definitely not. This getting confusing. It's not glass. In other words, does this image contain all of the information you would need in order to do your job for at least this one material? Which is color, reflectivity, roughness, possibly metalness if that was needed. And if it was metal, then you start getting it if it's brush metal, you need anisotropy and stuff like that. That makes this good reference. Is it large? That's important. We do not want like, I don't want to look at that. Because when you scale it up and go, look, but I can make it bigger. I'm like, now you made it blurry. I don't know what happens. So let's talk about this before we move on a second. In order to do this for project 6, I would just pick like an average brown color. I would color pick or something out of the middle there, and that would just be the color. I'd make it flat. I don't even have to color pick. I'm just going to get it really close. Because it's obviously got some variations in color in there. So that's fine, whatever. I'm just going to pick the average color. How reflective do y'all folks think this would be? Based on, because that's the other job you have to learn how to do, is interpret look development imagery into action. So with that said, and you're looking at this particular couch, how reflective is it? You can guess. I don't even know. I have no idea. But on a scale of 0, which is completely flawless, like, you know, no reflectivity at all, it's like a black body Vanta app, black thing, or at a 1, which is like the most reflective it could possibly be. Like a 0.7. Man, why doesn't it look like somebody like licked it? It's not like shiny. If it was reflective, why would it be a 7? And I'm not saying you're wrong. I want you to guys correct me. What am I confusing here? There's 2 different properties of reflectivity that you folks learned today. One determines how visible the reflections are. The other one determines whether they'll be clear or blurry reflections. You guys remember the difference? Roughness, correct? Would you say the roughness here is why I'm talking about? Like when you have something that's not like, let me back up 1 second. Let's look up patent leather couch living room daytime. Please be safe. Search on. Yeah. So when I get something really like, did I look at patent leather? Let's just look at patent leather couch. I just want to get the image, that feeling across. Holy crap! Look at that. Now that looks like somebody looked. This is probably 0.6 reflectivity, but the roughness is close to 0, right? Whereas this is probably 0.6, 0.7 reflectivity. but the roughness is much higher. The roughness is maybe a 0.5 here. And I'm making numbers up, honestly. The way you would do it is like, remember we did when I did the lighting with you? It's trial and error. What do I think that roughness is? I don't know, 0.5. Let's try that. If it comes out way too rough, you just make it lower. And if it's way too like slick looking and you know you're not supposed to, then you raise it up, right? But what I have a lot of folks, I noticed the initial struggle is separating reflectivity from roughness. So I want you to think of reflectivity. Let's put it in terms of monitors. Reflectivity would be brightness. The more you turn up the reflectivity, the brighter the image is on the screen. The more I can see that reflection. Roughness is the clarity of the transmission. If the clarity of the transmission is a 0, the image is completely grain-free, flawless image, right? The more I turn up that roughness, the blurrier the image on the TV gets, okay? That's the difference between reflectivity and roughness. And when you're looking at this stuff, those are the two things you have to pull from it. How reflective it is, which is the reflectivity. See this white highlight right here? As you guys turn your reflectivity up or down, that white highlight would get brighter or get darker. If you turn reflectivity off altogether, it would disappear, right? If you change the roughness without touching the reflectivity, this right here is a reflection of the lamp. You understand that? You see right there? As you lower the reflectivity, this white blurry thing would slowly start to focus into a reflection of the lamp. And as you raise the roughness, the reflection kind of stretches out and blurs, right? That's the two different things. So your image, your look development reference needs to answer, do I know the color? Yes. Can I tell about what kind of level of reflectivity I'm dealing with? Yes. Can I tell whether it's a rough reflection or a smooth, glossy reflection? Yes. If you get a yes to all three of those, it's probably good reference. Beyond that, we get into specifics. If you're looking at metal, can I tell if it's brushed or smooth? Can I tell if it's metal or not? And we're going to get into that, okay? So, hang on. I got like the tools here for the whole share my screen, but they just sort of get in the way of my search results here. So let's go. That's what constitutes good. I looked one up. Okay, so let's go back a second. Let me give you some tips on what kind of things you want to look for. Like dining table. What kind of dining table y'all want? Probably wood. That's all they are really, right? Yeah. Victorian. Victorian. Help us if I have a space. All right. Some free tips on things. Holy crap. Did you see how much that costs? We're all doing the wrong job. I mean, it really is pretty, isn't it? I don't know if it's, I could get a used car for a couple of years on that. Is this reflective? How do you know? Other than they're going, duh, just look at it. I mean, one of the things you want to look for, if you're looking for surfaces, either they being a floor or a table, you know what I mean? Something you put things on. You want pictures of that with stuff on it. Like the table, there's like plant holders and wherever the heck that thing is, and some chairs in the background. I can clearly see the upside down image of those items being reflected, right? So much easier to determine reflective properties when you have assets on it, as opposed to like this. Is that reflective? Yes, because you can see it kind of lighting up there. How reflective? I don't know, because I don't know what that is. It could be a window being reflected. They could be somebody holding up a deliberately blurry picture to confuse me. Don't trust them. You know, I like to remove as much uncertainty as possible because, again, the client's going to look at my reference with not me there trying to figure out how to save money. And so I want them to be like, yeah, it was real obvious that table was reflective, and I'm asked it. I'm sorry. You can't really pretend you don't know what I'm talking about. Look at the picture. Kind of like a cat rubbing their head in it. Okay, so things with stuff on it makes it easier to determine reflectivity. Again, oh, that's a pretty table. I'm always shopping. People, you don't have any money, of course you shop. The people who have all the money never shop. It's weird. So how would you guys describe the reflectivity on that? Can you guys see that image okay? It's kind of, I know I'm right up on my screen and y'all are looking at it across the room. Let's see if I can't make it bigger. Oh, come on. All right, so there, I'm kind of zooming in a little bit. How would you describe, let's do it backwards. How would you describe the roughness? Is this a low roughness surface or a high roughness surface? Low, because it's very clear. It's very, the reflectivity is very, it's not flawless, but it's closer to mirror than it is to like just what the hell blur, right? So we have a low roughness on a scale of no reflectivity at all to mirror. That's what you got to think about. Like, what is the reflectivity? Honestly, maybe a 0.4. But again, if I put it as 0.4 and I can't see the imagery here in the reflection as clear as I can in the reference, I have to raise it up, right? So the reflectivity is this image embedded in the table. The reflectivity is how easy it is to see that image. Whether that image is blurry or clear or not doesn't matter. The reflectivity is how easy it is to see that reflection. Then the blurry comes when you're like, okay, well, how clear is the image? And that's where you do that, okay? Let's do some trick questions because they're fun. Yee. Gotta go a long way just to get to a stupid image. Is this, let's start forward. Is this reflective or no? Someone said no. The tire, not the dude's nails. What's that? I got a no and a yes. The reason I'm doing this is because I want you guys to forget what you know and do what you see. Yes, the no changed to a yes. You see that band right there? Somebody didn't paint that lighter. It's just light bouncing off the rubber, right? Reflectivity, what I'm trying to undo is initially most people, when they think reflections, they think mirrors or cars, like shiny cars, or like the back of my mouse, stuff where it's really obvious. And they tend to think bounce light is something else. Bounce light is reflectivity. Like if you guys look at that wall behind you, is that reflective? A little bit, yeah. It's like some kind of semi-gloss. I can see that light reflected in there. I can't see a flawless reflection of the light, but I kind of get that it's square at least, right? Most things are some level of reflection. Many of them have a little bit of reflection and a lot of roughness. Roughness comes from microscopic imperfections in the surface or macro imperfections in the case of like drywall bump knockdown or whatever, but it's something that breaks up the reflected image so that it gets blurry, okay? This would be a little bit of reflectivity and a decent amount of roughness. Now, what I do is I always start with low roughness. This is your workflow is yours. You guys can figure out your own way. But I start with lower roughness, and I just want to get how much this white shows up here. And it'll probably just be a spot, because this might just be a light on the ceiling or a window or something. And then I raise my roughness until it spreads out enough. But you guys can do it however you want. As long as you know that most things have both, you're good. Does anybody want a specific item looked up so that they can have it covered or discussed? There's something you maybe already thinking about. No specific requests on this front? Okay, so mostly what I've been talking about is look development for like average ho-hum, like, we've got the tire, we've got a table, we looked at a table. Let's think of other things. Floor. Free tip, please make sure that you download and save and label one image as the floor, because most of your pictures are going to have a floor in it. And then I'm going to look at all of them going, I have no idea which one's actually your floor. And depending on what kind of jerk I feel like that day, I can pick an image that doesn't match at all and go, you did it wrong. Or I can pick an image that's really obvious you're a target and go, yeah, okay. But because you left it open like that, I can do what I want, right? Don't let me. Somebody stop him. What kind of floor you guys want? Hardwood. How are we shopping for hardwood floors? Man, this stuff is so cool. So here we got a couple different ones. Look at this. That's some seriously slick stuff. Reflective, low roughness. This over here, reflective, higher roughness than the previous one. Same kind of here, reflective, kind of rough. Like you can sort of make out shapes and stuff as you get more angled. Make sure it's really obvious to me what was your intention. And then focus on color, reflectivity, and roughness. All of them need attention. If you have any doubts with any of the reference you're doing and you're like, man, I can't tell, do I need reference? Just flag Ari or myself down in lab and we'll come look at what you got and help you out, okay? But really your goal is to get reference for this project and then make everything match your reference. Every object probably gets an individual material, although they can share. What I mean by that is, let's say you wanted to have your couch and your chairs in the interior match. Like they're all a set. You could absolutely, if you got reference to back it up, make the leather couch also be the leather on the cushion in the chair. And it could be the same material. In fact, in a game engine, if you got caught making the same material twice, you'd probably be in deep crack because it's expensive. We don't need to. So with material libraries, I want you guys to start thinking about elements. Like when you look at my material libraries, what you will see is like metal, silver, polished, metal, iron, rusted, metal, aluminum, heat blasted, or just aluminum dull, plastic, red, glossy, leather, cracked. You know, get what I'm saying? I would be like, almost like if I were a textile, was buying materials to cover things with, that's how I would do it. Then I could just assign everybody, oh, this thing's wearing leather, that thing's wearing wood, this thing's, that's kind of when you get into macro, like big scenes and stuff, that's how you're gonna manage. So if you share things in this class, because it happens, you're allowed to, as long as it makes sense. But give me reference that backs that up, please. Everything has to be, like, if you're gonna do a blue couch, get a reference of a blue couch. Do not look up a blue reference and then make me a red couch, because that'll just drive me insane. Does that make sense? I mean, please don't, they're like, hey, look, I got this cool black leather couch. Then why is it fuzzy with green polka dots and it's yellow? I thought that was cool later. Did you just make that up or did you have reference? And if you have reference, give it to me and then we're fine, right? Everything has to be backed up. Y'all can do the pink polka dot fuzzy couch on your own time. Do not experiment on the clock if you can avoid it, because you are working under deadline for money, right? If you want to practice making the fuzzy couch, you can do it on the side. And if you ever get to the point where like, I can do that every day of the week, I'm so good at it. Now you can offer that service to a client, but never experiment on a job if you can avoid it. Now, let's get into metal, because somebody mentioned that. Vermos. You guys talk about anisotropic and stuff like that. Here's a good one. Here's a good couple comparisons. Ignore the white background because I'm a hypocrite. What is that made of? Plastic. What is that made of? Metal. How can you tell? What gives it away? Why do you look at this? Again, those preconceived perfection, and just the knowledge that everybody has walking into the situation. How do you know that's plastic? What gave it away? It doesn't look like metal, does it? This is where you're up against. Like, I don't know, it's just not metal. That's the kind of thing you're gonna get. It's gonna kind of iffy. But they know what they know, you know what I mean? They just maybe can't articulate. The reason is because metal changes the color of stuff reflected off of it. You notice that I'm sure that they're not on Krypton. That reflection of a window behind them is actually white light, but because of the nature of metal, it's changing the color of all light coming out of it. Anybody ever been in band, sat next to a brass instrument, looked at themselves and realized they're turning yellow? Unless it's like a white, you know, French horn or some crap like that. The metals change the color frequency coming out. The reflection comes in as white light, it comes out color biased, almost like clear glass would do, like colored glass, you know, like you look through a green bottle, everything looks green. It's similar, except it's not transparency, bless you, it's actually reflectivity, but it's the same process. So one of the goals when you guys are critiquing your own stuff, what I'm pointing out here is, if you can point to all of the assets in your scene and by sight, tell me what it's made of, that's a good job. That's cloth. This is probably drywall, painted drywall. There's that door handle is metal. Do you understand what I'm saying? Like, if you could tell me where oh, that's a metal handle, like at Home Depot, or, you know, or that's that's satin paint or like not a super reflective paint, or this is clearly cloth and not hardwood. All of the things that make something the way it is in your mind as far as how you perceive it in reality, those are the things you're looking for when you're looking at your work. And if it's missing, that's what gives you away. So if you're looking at any part of your work and you go, I honestly couldn't tell you what that's made of. And you'll get that. You'll have stuff in there that's like, man, that doesn't look real. What is it made of? Ether. I don't know. If you're getting to that point, that's a bad thing and it needs attention. Now, we will not get all of the way there in Project 6 because some of the elements missing won't happen until Project 7. Again, I'm going to pick on that wall some more. You guys who are close to the wall and that wall over there, is this completely smooth? No, there's a little bit of bump on there. It's called a knockdown. It looks like orange peel. That goes a long way into establishing the look. We're not doing that for this project. So in your initial render, that will be missing, right? But there's nothing for it. But how much light is bouncing off that wall in the paint you have, that you can do now, right? So that's what we're responsible for. Do not forget the metalness. So many people will forget to adjust their metalness and they'll have like in their mind reference of a red thermos, but I get this because they have not pushed the metalness. And you see that red from the other one, you see like the reflections here, they're still white. The reflective color isn't changing. So when you do your base color and your specular color, in this thermos, this plastic thermos, the base color is going to be that red, but the reflectivity is still white. There's no color in the specular color. As opposed to something like, say, that, we're going to have red in both the base color and the specular color because the specular color is changing the reflective colors. If you put red in the reflective color, everything reflected in that image will look red. If you make it really red, it might be overkill. You know what I mean? You're gonna have to play with the amount of red and specularity in there, but the goal is to get it to look like this. If you're not adding color to both the specular weight and the diffuse weight, or excuse me, the base weight, you're not gonna get there. This image will tell you if it's metal or not. You guys already told me right away. You could tell what it is just by looking at it. You need to be able to do the same thing with your render when you're done. If you're making this thermos and you don't look at your render and go, that's metal, something's missing. And that's the bar that you're holding yourself to. And that's where, if you can't get it, you get help from us. Looking up images that I frequently get a lot of problems with, just make sure that you guys have been told. Is that reflective?
Yeah.
Where can you tell?
Over in the bottom right corner.
See this tall edge? The whole edge is highlighting. This is a horrible look development image because it's straight on. So your desk, all of you at your desks, if you stand up and look straight down at it, how reflective is it? Like you've got a clear spot, we all got our stuff scattered out. Now I want you to, like when you're looking at it, it's kind of like it's barely reflective. You can see a little bit. Now I want you to like sit back down and without taking a nap, put your head down kind of on the table and look at it edge on. And suddenly it is a crap load more reflective. Isn't it? All of them do the same thing. So there's a term for that. It's called BRDF. We don't really care. In game engines, bidirectional reflections distribution function. You don't have to worry about it here. What it means is stuff at an angle is way more reflective than stuff straight on. It's the same material, right? I mean, you're looking at the same desk. It just suddenly looks more reflective when you see it at a really hard glancing angle than when you look straight at it. It's not sorcery that I know of. What that means is you do not want a picture of something straight on because this is the least reflective angle of most things that you would have. With the exception of like chrome or mirrors or stuff, when you look straight on at something like that, it's going to present the least amount of reflectivity. And also, if you looked at it at a really hard glancing angle, it might look like glass, even though that's not true from any other angle, right? What you want is this. Boring old, I don't know what the hell that is. Boring 3/4 view. You guys know what I mean by 3/4? We're not all the way up on top. I'm not right on the side. I'm just kind of like 3/4 up looking down on the table or something like that. With the exception of the white background, this is a good angle. I'm just trying to say, like, I don't want to look straight at things. This right here, that's a good one. Except for the white, you know, they kind of made it look cool. So it's a very clinical setup and it's not really very realistic. This, holy crap, what did I just buy? $600? What the hell? Does it come with people to clean the kitchen when I'm done? Sorry, I couldn't believe what I just saw. That's, I don't care who William Sonoma is, he's a con artist. I'm not paying that. It's a lump of wood. See, this is straight on. It's not super helpful. You guys can see, like, in very extreme locations, yes, you can pick up some reflectivity. There's just not enough information here. Because again, those angles right there to you, you're looking down the edge of the groove, and that's an extreme spot. It's going to be way more reflective. You want to avoid those angles at all times if you can avoid it. And if not, find something else. And that's the other thing I want to mention. Do not get hung up on wanting to do something so badly that you will ignore common sense or good sense to try to do it. I really want to do the lava wall. You have a reference for that? There is no such thing, but I'm going to do it. What the hell? I get this occasionally where they just really become intractable. They really want to do something. They have really sketchy reference and they're just basically making crap up. And I'm like, I'm telling you, if you give me that on a project where I want something else, I'm going to charge you a lot of money for it. Right? I mean, you're doing what I want. That's what this kind of thing is as far as being a professional artist. If you're wanting to do something and you just can't find decent reference to help you get the job done, find something else. Don't get so attached to an idea that you can't let it go. I'm not going to pay you more for the lava wall or you know, just a regular drywall or maybe like wallpaper. You know what I mean? Like, don't make yourself insane. Do what the client wants. Do it, you know, as quickly as you can. Don't make yourself crazy and move on with your life. That's really what it comes down to. In this case, you guys are meant to learn stuff. So we are going to have some things required so that, you know, you meet certain checkpoints like this. That's something to never, ever do. Swiss cheese. Swiss cheese is the antichrist of this class. Because someone will always try to make their cheese with holes so big they can stick their finger in, and it's not modeled. So do you guys notice what's happening? Just so I can cover this. Like, you see that light peering through the cheese? You notice how the holes really aren't that dark. They just kind of get more orange. You guys ever heard the term subsurface scattering? That's what this is. We're not showing y'all how to do it. And it would be, in order to do this, I mean, there is a subsurface scattering setting in the default surface material. I don't know that would be adequate to the occasion to successfully pull that off. The full subsurface scatter material is way more complicated and beyond the scope of this class. So avoid massive holes. The other reason is this, because I'm not kidding. Somebody will give me that. In Project 7, they will take that picture and stick it on there like a decal. And like, look, it's Swiss cheese. And I'm like, no, that's a plastic toy from the set of Tom and Jerry. Because remember we talked about like the brick wall thing and the whole limitation normal maps. Like, I look down the hole, when I move my head, I expect to see it cross the hole and not down in anymore, but the image doesn't update correctly and I can't see parallax. All you're going to do is if you take stuff like this and use it on there, it's just going to look like a decal. You have to model something like this. Stick to something. Give me some other kind of cheese, folks. I'm gonna look up mine and then you give me something else. Pepper jack. I don't even know what that is, but I'm gonna look it up. I know what it is. How about that? Somebody open that up and said, let's eat that. It's called Tomio Ma. It's the grossest thing I found so far. It is Davy Jones cheesecake. I don't know what the hell to describe that as. That is mold, literally, and old wine grapes. That's how they make it. They pack this thing in old wine grapes and bury it underground for a couple years. And somebody digs it up and eats it. It's probably really good because it's really expensive. I guess the dirt is expensive. What do you say, pepper jack? Pepper jack cheese. Okay. That's kind of interesting. There you go. That's doable. Again, the details as far as the individual color changes and all that crap come in Project 7. But I don't see any massive gaping holes here. I don't see any problems. This is probably fine. other sketchy things off the top of my head. No, never really it. So without taking up, I don't want to take up too much more of your time. I want to get you all working. But as a reminder, no white backgrounds, avoid them because they're not as informative as we just don't know under what circumstance that image was taken. And with that said, I don't know how applicable it is to the render I'm currently working on, either be it day or night. Use your search engine. Remember to do indirect searches if you have to. You're going to probably have to get into that more for night reference because night images are just harder to come by. Every image needs to answer whether, tell you what the color will be, what the reflectivity is, how rough it is. If we're getting into metallics, like, we're getting into stuff that may or may not be metal. If it's metal, you're going to get the color and the reflectivity. You need to set that up the way Tony showed you guys, where you have both edge and spec color, having that in there. Excuse me. Reflective surfaces. Save all of your images, name them while you have them, like floor.jpg, table.jpg. Be really obvious. Assume I'm a really intractably dumb, argumentative golden retriever. When I'm grading your work, you have to really make sure that I can't go chase a tennis ball. Just keep me focused, keep it simple, make sure everything is accounted for so I can't misinterpret what it is you were trying to do at your detriment, okay? As far as glass, we're gonna cover that. What's today? Losing track of days. What's that? It's Wednesday. Friday we'll get to part 2 and it'll cover glass. But a free tip coming up. Me personally, because Tony will cover this a little bit, but me personally, I like to get 2 images of each of my glass. One, believe it or not, I'm going to be a hypocrite, but I'll get 1 image with a white background for color picking only. Like the same kind of bottle. Like if I'm doing a green bottle, I'm going to get a picture of that green bottle on a white background. So when I color pick it, it's still green. Then I'm going to get another picture of that green bottle in a real world environment where it's empty. Reminder, all wine bottles are empty. If you look up a wine bottle for reference and it's full, it's bad. If it's opaque, it's bad. Please read FSO for this project because there are a lot of sub permissions, for lack of a better way to describe it. You can do anything you want, but there are things we strongly advise against. We have a document in there for that very purpose. Okay. Anyone has any questions about anything with reference? If you are looking at your reference image and you have a question, or you want to know, hey, is this cool? Can I do this? Or hey, is this gonna be a problem? Whatever it might be, flag us down. We'll kind of have a look at it and give you some thumbs up, thumbs down, some kind of iffy if you think it's iffy. But for the most part, as long as your images are of a good size and answer all of those questions and they're regular pictures with the environment clearly visible and the lighting clearly visible, it's probably good enough to have you do your job. One other thing you want to avoid is with color. This is less material and more scene, but it does come from reference too. I get a lot of folks when they do a black couch or whatever, something black, they will make it black. Like in the color selection of the material, they just go all the way black. If you do that, you get this. You guys ever heard of this? It's called Vanta Black. One of the most non-light reactive substances we've ever created. I think it's like 99 something percent or whatever non-light reactive. The side effect here is because it has no reflective properties, no anything. It just looks like a hole in the picture, right? I mean, it looks like somebody photoshopped a hole in the wall. If your objects in your scene are completely black, like value 0, it will look like this. Because at value 0, it cannot interact with Maya lights. Please remember, for all its coolness and annoyance at the same time, Maya approximates, it does not simulate, right? It's just kind of fudging it. When it gets to a completely jet black color, that in its mind is a completely non-reactive substance. Jet black in Maya is Vanta Black. So if you have a black couch, it's not black, it's really, really, really dark gray. You see how it kind of gets a little brighter here in the middle and then it gets darker down there? That's highlight and shadow, right? If the object is completely pure black, it won't have any highlights. The shadow and the regular, and they all look the same, and it just flattens it out and loses everything. So remember, yes, you're color picking, but then you're gonna have to change those colors based on what you're seeing in the render, right? So if it's looking too dark and you're losing depth, just start knocking that color back towards the white scale a little bit until it still looks black, but has shape, right? The last thing I want to mention is this comes back to lighting. I mentioned at the beginning. If I can find an image that does this, blooming. Let's find a picture of this because we got a bunch of it. Get anywhere? No, I'm not really. I'm getting flowers now. It's going off the deep end here. Here's what's going to happen for scenes like, for example, most people will make the windows white, the blinds white, the wood trim around the window white, and maybe the coffee mug white. We get a lot of that. If your lighting is too bright, those objects will blow out. What it is, it's like the Vanta Black problem, but the other side. You no longer have any depth. You can't see any more detail. They are so bright that like the window trim has got like shape to it. You won't see any of that anymore. It's all gone. There's two ways you can fix that. When you have scenes where the lighting is too bright, you can fix the lighting. Now, let me put it a different way. What if everything in the scene looks really good except the window and the coffee cup? You know what I mean? Like those two look too bright, but everything else looks great. In that circumstance, okay, you have like a couple things that are looking bad because they're too bright, but everything else looks really good. What you can do is go to your diffuse, your base weight. You guys remember that? Your base weight, and just start knocking it down. And what that does is it makes the asset a little bit less light reactive. So the object will start to get darker. The object's acting like you're turning your lights down, but the rest of the stuff's not affected, okay? So if you got a couple of objects that are overly bright, but everything else looks great, use your base weight to correct for the overbrightness. If everything is on fire and nothing looks good, you're gonna have to lower the intensity of your lights, okay? So it's one or two. If everything is getting smoked, you gotta fix the lights. If everything looks good, but one or two objects, then you just gotta adjust those down, okay? Last thing, if you guys are doing the exterior, because I get this a lot, the pergola, I can look that up directly. I guess I do have the image. You see this kind of material right here, and it's really, unfortunately, it's a little hard to see on the screen here, so I'll try to zoom in a little bit. See back there, it's kind of got a little bit of sheen to it, but like right there, it doesn't look, there's a term here, that kind of treatment is called powder coating. But it also happens like if anybody's been in the military around flat painted vehicles, you know what I'm talking about. They're just not, they're not reflective. It's almost like the vehicle is plush. It's a weird description, but because the light is so scattering over the surface, it looks like you expect to almost rub your hand on it, come away with a bunch of crap on. In order to get that kind of material feeling, you guys remember that there's a roughness in the base color. We don't use it all that often, but I think it needs to get used more than people know. But when you start getting into that softer, it's still a hard surface. It's not a plush object, but that surface feels like the light is spreading over it like that. And it feels like it would be dusty or there's like some kind of something on it. You know what I mean? That's where you get a little bit of that diffuse roughness in there. And if you get that material feel and you're like, man, my stuff doesn't look like that. My stuff feels harder, if that's a word, than that. Hit me up, and it might be just something we might just need a little bit of base roughness in there. We don't need that very often, and it's, I want to say it's a little bit more advanced, but it's not, it's needed seldom enough that it's easily forgotten when it is, if that makes sense. So just having a second opinion, look at it and go, oh, this might get you there, okay? Okay, those are pretty much the highlights of stuff. If I've forgotten anything, I will do a rehash. But does anybody have any questions about the requirements for the reference, the requirements for the project, or have any questions based on what happened in lecture, either with Tony or myself, that you would just like clarification on before you execute your assignment? Everybody good? Yeah, I'm sorry today, you get the double whammy. You get Tony's full lecture, and then you get me, but it has to be covered. And we're just a month long. We really could be a 4-month class, so we're just cramming as much in there, but I try to make it at least as agreeable as possible. We have to get this stuff covered. So from now on, when you guys do your own work, this stuff applies. Like always have reference. better reference, better results, always. Nobody got any questions? All right, I appreciate everybody's time and attention for that. We go ahead, I'm gonna stop sharing my screen. And thank you very much for paying attention to the reference demo here.